Hello, everybody. I figured, well, I just went for a run, obviously, but I figured I've made YouTube. What is this? Wait, well, some of you might be watching this on YouTube. YouTube, Instagram Live videos about all the other Pierre Olivier Bonhomme wines that I have. So I ought to just jump in and do the Telquel as well, because the Telquel is really awesome. This is mostly Gamay with, depending on the vintage, and I don't actually know about this vintage, 2019, but sometimes, depending on the vintage, Grollo or Pinot d'Aunis in the vintage. But very, very, very much Gamay. From Valley des Cher in the central Loire, which I believe is Touraine. It doesn't say Touraine anywhere on here. Montou-sur-Bièvre. I don't know. It's sold as a Vin de France, but this is Gamay from the Loire. So here we go. Pierre Olivier Bonhomme. I've talked about him before. Younger guy who I think he had like interned with Thierry Pouzelat for a vintage. Thierry Pouzelat, current winemaker, owner of Clos de Toubouf in Cheverny, a winery that, like, I don't know what you want to call it, has been at the forefront of the natural wine movement in France since the start of the natural wine movement in France. Founding member of the, I forget what the French is, Association Viticulture Naturelle, AVN, I think. So anyway, Thierry Pouzelat started a side winery, because he already had the one winery, but he decided he needed another one. There were a string of bad vintages in the Loire, and he had no grapes to work with for several years. So he started a second winery, separate winery, buying fruit, like good organic old vine, like grapes that he could find other places to make wine, so that he could make wine and support himself and whatnot. But that got going then, and then he had to go and take over his family's winery. His brother retired, so he took that on full time. And that's how Pierre Olivier Bonhomme got involved in that side winery that Thierry had started, and then worked with Thierry Pouzelat, and then eventually took over. So now this is just Pierre Olivier Bonhomme making these wines, but he sort of just continued a lot of how Thierry Pouzelat and he had been making wines. Okay, look at this color. Look at that. I hope that comes through. It's very, very red. Also, my glass is dusty, but it is 2019, so it should be pretty vivid. It smells like Gamay from the Loire. That's not a very helpful description, but it's like spicy and peppery, plummy, dark. Yeah, definitely like peppery. It smells like a little smoky, like grilled meat or something. Wow. That is big. Peppery, has some serious tannin. It's crunchy. Wow, that's really interesting. This is so different from previous vintages. Okay, so I guess 2019 was a very warm year and produced very concentrated grapes. Hey, what do you know? I didn't actually realize. I don't pay a ton of attention to vintage reports and stuff like that, because each wine, every winemaker is different and has different experiences and stuff, and blah, 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 blah. Anyway, this is 14.2% alcohol. And when I saw that, I actually thought oh, maybe there's wiggle room in what you put on the label. Maybe because there are tariffs now on wine, imported wine from France, that's under 14%. Maybe he just bumped up the alcoholic content on the label to avoid the tariffs. I don't think so. I think this is actually 14.2% alcohol. It doesn't taste alcoholic, but it tastes big and ripe and dense and powerful. It's concentrated and like muscular, and there's real concentration and tannin here. Jeez, wow, not what I was expecting. I feel a little bad about recommending this wine for seafood now. Previous vintages were great for that kind of thing. Yeah, really ripe, like cherry, blackberry, like brambly, boysenberry. Pick some berries. Blueberry. There's blueberry here too. But then that tannin. Getting it all in my mustache. That's a professional hazard of this. Yeah, dark, juicy, really powerful for Gamay. I'm very impressed. It is delicious, but it's just a totally different experience from what I expected. Pretty, it's ripe, fleshy. Wow. And this would be awesome with hamburgers. Jeez, I'm surprised. I guess I should drink more wines. I guess I should drink more wine more often. Pierre, Olivier, Bonhomme, Telquel, Gamay from the Central Loire, naturally farmed, wild fermented. I'm not sure if this is 100% zero sulfur or just very, very, very low sulfur, but it is on that spectrum. Really excellent, expressive, like crunchy, spicy, brambly, but juicy, rich, wet red wine. If you like Pinot Noir, like this has got some of the same texture and like roundness of fruit. It's just a little bit more wild and animal-y. So there you go. I've actually got some in stock right now. I managed to get more in from France.